What's that? Yeah, what?
Oh,
That do.
oh Lord. Okay. What's up, guys? How y'all doing?
Hey, you guys. We're super excited that you guys are here with us on tonight. Welcome to On the Couch with the Fombys, baby. Woo! And so, listen, you guys, we're going to talk tonight about the process of forgiveness in a relationship. And so, as we're here, we're not here to talk as if we are an expert in these things. We're just talking to you guys from our personal experiences in our current marriage, in our prior marriage, and other relationships that we've had as well. And so, we just want to share with you our personal experience. So thank you guys so much for joining us for On the Couch with the Fombys, and to all of our friends. We look forward to seeing you guys at Propheticon 4.0, the Unchurched Conference. So for those of you guys who don't know, we have opened up free seats, you guys. We've opened up free seats to Propheticon 4.0. So you can go to the website at theunchurchedconference.com, grab your seat, get to Birmingham, Alabama. All right?
Yes, so
those are my preliminaries, babe.
Those are preliminaries. I mean, you have to have them. It's like bulletins. Now,
that's my church bulletin.
Yeah, then they say, now govern yourselves accordingly. That's what she says in church. So,
oh yeah,
yes. So we wanted to talk about some things which we believe is a process that is so necessary in relationships, and it is the process of forgiveness, whether that is like by sin of the person's ignorance or like or whatever. Like, we've been through it all. When I say all, I mean all. And I mean, you know, there's our marriages before we met each other was so much prepping. And tonight, I think that the biggest thing we want to interject is that everything that you have, like if you're, you know, married or you're with your spouse or whatever, you have to draw from the other examples of what was your, I would say, your issue in the past. Like whatever it was that you had that situation, when you have to draw in the process of forgiving your current spouse, you should draw on experiences when you had it, that maybe same similar situation with your previous
like previous relationship. Right. So basically what you're saying is not to allow like the things that you have gone through, whether they've been good or bad in prior relationships, to let that be in vain. Like we can use those as learning
which makes the process of forgiving one another easier.
Yeah, it should. It definitely should, because you have more experience. Exactly. I feel like experience allow you to forgive at a different rate. Yeah. Forgiveness allow you to forgive with more perspective 100%. Because of what you have gone through in the past. So let's talk about, like, how do you get over and move so quickly towards forgiveness in relationships, especially like in this marriage?
I think well, I consider two things. With you, I always try to look at it from a perspective of to be honest, I really consider if I had thought of doing it that way, would we be at the present moment?
Like make it make sense.
So for example, like if we are in a disagreement or something, and we're seeing things differently, the first thing I do that helps with the process of forgiveness is to look at it from from a level of understanding it from your perspective, like why you are feeling the way you are. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And it seems like it's really funny in theory, or it's like not real in theory, but when you have to do that, that's like the most humbling thing, because you still are emotional or upset yourself.
Yeah. So you're saying like it's easier for you to forgive when you look at it from my perspective versus your own perspective.
100%.
Okay, so does that make sense to you guys? Like it's easier? Yeah, definitely.
Well,
because if I look at it from my perspective, I'm right.
Right. So I do that from a simple aspect of like, okay,
I'm right.
Let me see if this makes sense logically. And if it does, then I'm like, okay, that could have worked. So then I look at it like, okay, I'm not going to get super upset because I can see it from her perspective. Now, if I don't see it from your perspective, then I have to like sort of put it in a perspective or mindset. Is it worth the peace that we have? So then whatever we're going through is not worth the future we're trying to build.
Right. So what I'm trying to work on is, or what I have worked on is not making everything such a big deal.
I can see. I feel like you've been.
Yeah. So not making everything, a big deal. So like for instance, especially when it comes to pet peeves, such as leaving a toilet seat up. You got a pet peeve.
Yeah, it's the way you do the toothpaste.
I knew you was gonna say that.
But
so
it don't. But I don't say anything.
But you know how I walk. So you know how I'm free to do the toothpaste the way that I want to.
How?
I get my own.
Right, but at the same time, it's yours still logically don't make sense.
It does. Like,
how?
Just leave my toothpaste alone.
Right.
So that we won't argue over toothpaste.
We're not arguing over toothpaste.
That's right. So you get your toothpaste, then I get mine. So his
solution. That's a solution.
Yeah, it is a solution.
It definitely
is.
is.
His pet peeve is the way that I squeeze the toothpaste out. So he wants me to start from the bottom.
I don't want you to start
and you want me to roll.
That's not what I said. That's not what I said.
Yeah, roll.
No, that's not what I said. I said you squeeze it from the middle like a 5-year-old.
I'm in a rush.
You grab it and you just squeeze
I'm in a
it.
rush.
And when it's left, it's still all crumbled up and all messed up. I'm like, okay, and it just sits there.
Yeah, and sit there until I come
and
back.
And then I'm like, listen, all you gotta do is when she come back, instead of her starting from the bottom and then pushing so it just straightens out again, she continues to switch the positions and squeeze it another way and still leave it all crinkled up. I'm like, that makes no logical
have time for
sense.
that. I don't have time for that.
Bro, it is the most. So, I mean, but like you said, that process, it makes sense because it makes sense to you. Okay, it's not worth our peace.
So that you can do the toothpaste the way that you want to. You got your toothpaste. The way that
normal people.
Normal people. We don't have time. We just grab the toothpaste and if it's in the middle, we squeeze.
Nobody normal does that. They don't leave it like that. Who?
Listen, I know y'all can agree with me.
Don't make sense.
I did agree.
They don't.
Yeah, y'all agree with me.
It extends the life of toothpaste. Thank you.
Oh my God, who would make that foolish? Who would make that foolish comment?
It makes sense.
Oh my God, who made that foolish comment?
Okay, so you've been working on.
But though, for real though,
big deal.
Yes, not making things a big deal, and just really looking for solutions to things that could be a problem. Right. So even though I'm laughing about the toothpaste, I know that for some, if I was to continue to squeeze the toothpaste the way that you don't like that can really be an issue. And what happens is we add that to the list of things that we dislike. Mm-hmm. And before we know it, we have a whole list and we eventually don't like living with the person that we say that we love. Mm-hmm. So I don't like the way that they squeeze the toothpaste. I don't like the way they leave their pants around the house. I don't like the way they leave the toilet. And so now you're not able to enjoy the relationship because you're so busy looking at everything that you don't like, which is a problem. Right. So for me, it's easier for me to let's come up with solutions so that we can love each other and we can like each other and like coming home and not have to, fight over small issues. Right. Because what we do know about relationships is that the enemy, he comes in and he tries to severance relationships with small issues, with small barriers. So
I think that's one of the greatest things is that we've learned to measure. And I would give you guys
that's good. No, finish that.
Learn to measure the volume of the incident. And what I mean by that, if it's something that is small, for example, sometimes I'll ask if she wants something to eat, sometimes I didn't. Sometimes she'll ask if I wanted something to eat, sometimes she didn't. It would have been nice at the time if you wanted something to have it, but when you measure the weight of the incident, it's not worth the level of us falling out because we both are very capable of eating ourselves. Yeah. That may have been a miscommunication. So I feel like when you're able to measure the level of the infraction that made sort of a moment in your relationship to where you're forced with the decision, and a lot of times because we don't our body isn't trained to deal with disappointment or to deal with hurt, pain, and anguish, we don't keep account of the good that happens. And what I mean by that is we don't keep account of how all the good things have been happening. So we just magnify the bad, which causes you to really make you feel as if you're in a relationship where you have somebody that never does this, never does that.
Yeah.
When the fact is, it's not really a pattern. It was something that maybe is one thing that you didn't like, but they had 15 other. You just never talked about the other 15. So sometimes if you find it hard to forgive your spouse, then I would dare to say that you must not really take the good times sometimes for what they are and really embrace them. One thing that we've been working on is really embracing those moments that we have together, because those are the ones you have to pull on in times when you don't, feel like forgiving. But if I'm a natural person, I'm naturally always looking to praise or looking to find a way to make this moment, to cherish this moment. Then if something comes to disrupt that, I'm more apt to develop a solution versus throw the whole thing away. No, we can't throw it away. I want to fix it because I got to get back to what I love about it.
Yeah. And I realize now, being in this place, it makes it easier for me to forgive you or to forgive others because I have worked on myself. I've really worked on, the inward side of me. So it would be hard for me to forgive you when I'm just not a forgiving person.
Right.
Because usually if you have a hard time forgiving someone that you love, especially like your spouse, or if you're in a relationship with someone, that's because you may not just be a forgiving person, and you can find traits of that in other relationships, or how you hold on to grudges or hold on to things that you have gone through,
or you gotta get your lick back.
Gotta get your lick back, or being pessimistic about life. So it's harder to forgive people that you love when the inward side of you has so much darkness, for lack of better words.
And I think that we all, the Bible says that every man was born in sin and shapen in iniquity, which means that inadvertently that darkness we're born with, which means that you have to fight with the good fight of faith to be able to replace what was already in this flesh dwelleth no good thing.
Man, it's so good, because even when you start think about a baby's in the mother's womb, which is a dark, secluded place. And so when they come out to the light, and they have to get adjusted to the light because they're used to being in a dark place.
Right.
They were formed and shaped in their mother's womb in that dark place. And that's how I look at life, is that it's easier for us to just revert to the dark side. It's easier for us to look at the negative side, to when someone walk in the room, to judge them, to it's just easier.
Right.
Yeah, it's just easier.
It's easier I feel like, to measure the level of someone by sometimes our emptiness and voids that we have in our own life. And so, when you don't work on a process of healing those, because inadvertently you can have the best childhood, and then you come into knowledge of something and you realize throughout your childhood you had a void.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
That's so true.
So you can think you had a really good hold on this relationship. You grow in life and experience, and now you realize there were voids everywhere. So then you create insecurities about the voids, because now you're starting to question all of this because you didn't know. So I feel like forgiveness is something that you have to take into consideration. Did I have knowledge, or did the person have knowledge? And if they did, what is it that I can do to move forward past this moment and not let this moment change me? Because if you don't forgive the person, they changed you forever. And that's one thing I forgot.
Oh my God! Wait a minute, that is so powerful.
If you don't forgive a person, they change you forever.
Wow, that's powerful.
And what's crazy is when you get back to who you originally were, everyone has that euphoric moment sometimes that you can go back to as a child, or as sometimes as an adolescent, or maybe a moment in time where it was just whole and everything was pure, but then life happened to you and you became tainted. So if you don't forgive the people who tainted you,
Mm.
then you never reach that full adult cognizant level that I worked to get here mentally, level of euphoria.
Okay, so listen, let me tell you, Prophet JD Fombys, that is so good. But I also understand forgiving someone and it still changed my entire life.
Yeah. Well, see. So the thing is, I feel like it's a twofold sort of situation.
Help me.
Because when you forgive them, right? If you don't forgive them,
first of all, you're just so wise.
What? I mean,
you're just so wise. The wisdom of God is upon your life, man of God. You talk like you're my age. Like when you talk,
what are you doing? Right
you just make me listen to you. About? So I be like this.
That's also biased.
I'm not just biased.
You're my wife,
when you talk, I just.
But you're my wife. I would like to have that energy as a wife. Thank you.
As a
husband,
yeah.
I need the energy from.
No, but I know it's just so much wisdom to just come from you. Okay, so finish with your wisdom.
Oh my God! So it's twofold, right?
Mm.
So when you don't forgive a person, the first one is they changed you forever, right? Mm-hmm. And normally it's because the forgiveness needs to come because you're trying to get back something they took from you, or innocence, or peace, or whatever that may be. The second thing is you have to forgive yourself. And what I mean by that is forgive yourself from the lack of knowledge of why you were in that position, or your lack of feeling that the position or the situation was going to turn for the positive and it didn't. If you don't forgive yourself for that,
yeah,
you will constantly, you have to ask yourself why. Why did this happen? If this is something out of the blue that you had no control, a lot of stuff like childhood trauma and stuff like that, then that's another level where I believe you need to seek professional help to help you process how to heal.
Yeah, especially if you've gone your whole life.
If you've gone your whole life and it's affecting you, you'll never be in a good, successful relationship, like period, in love, because yours was like your innocence was taken. So that's like a professional help. But the other part is when we're cognizant of our decision to maybe leave, but we stay. Maybe we should have stayed, but we left, or whatever. We should have done more, or whatever. When it comes to love, if you don't forgive yourself for who you were or whatever decision you made, the way that I found it is that it's either based off of ignorance or rebellion.
Oh my God. Okay, so Coach JD, what happens when you make a decision? Okay, so I'm gonna share something just transparently.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to figure out the best way to say this.
Okay. Let me sip some water.
Oh my God.
Just say it.
No, ain't no just saying it. Okay. Well, let me just ask something else until I find
We'll put a pin in that.
Yeah, let me put a pin. Let me put it. Yeah, I think it's something that needs to be discussed, but I need to figure out a way of saying it without anyone misconstruing or
really take what you say. So yeah, there's a certain
So let me hold that. But here's the thing: how do you forgive? Well, you never answered my question about forgiving.
When you change, it didn't change for the better.
Right.
So you said, how do you forgive when even you're saying they have the power, like that person changed you.
Yeah, you forgave, but it still changed you.
Right. So that's what I was saying. It's why that forgiveness is twofold. Like it changed you and it took something from you, but mentally, the other part of that forgiveness is you have to forgive yourself for what, like the decision you made and the hand that you had in it that changed you. If it's something that was in your control. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like overstaying when you should have listened to that voice in your head and you didn't. Like you have to forgive yourself in that regard, because it doesn't change the consequence. It changed the perception of the consequence.
Got it. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, because it changed your perception.
It don't change the consequence. It changes the perception of the consequence. So if I know I need wholeness to move forward, and we know that true wholeness comes from a process of understanding forgiveness, I have to first forgive genuinely and whole before I become happy, like really whole in my future. Because I can find things to make me temporary happy, a temporary situation, a vice, a person, a bad habit, whatever. And I find that temporary happiness because I'm trying to cope with whoever changed me. And my perception hasn't changed, so I can't forgive them because they were wrong. But when I understand that all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose, I have to now change my purpose to his purpose, because my purpose, that shouldn't happen to me.
Right. Okay.
You know, so his purpose, I have to surrender, and the forgiveness, it breaks you. What forgiveness does is break your pride from saying, why not you? Your pride says, why me? Your pride says, no, that was unfair. The Bible says it rains on the just as well as the unjust. So forgiveness helps you see that why not me? Because if he had the audacity to do it to his own son, who are we?
Yeah.
You know.
So you're saying, like, when we don't forgive, it is there is some type of, for lack of a better word, there's a demonic cord that is attached to it that will not allow you to forgive.
I know two people right now.
Or a lack of submission unto God. Like, really, unforgiveness is a lack of submission unto God to release. Yeah, it's a lack. Yeah, it's a lack of, because you really have to submit unto God to forgive someone who have hurt you. That's a submission unto God. And so you're saying that I refuse to.
Human strength.
Yeah, you cannot do it within your human strength, especially when something has been done to you so devastating. Yeah. So you can't do it within your own strength. And so what I always tell people is that, you know, like, I don't have it in me to forgive some people for the things that have been done to me. Instead, I receive the forgiveness from the Father to give to them. Because the Bible says...
How do you separate the two?
How do I... What do you mean, how do I separate the two?
So you say you receive the Father's forgiveness and you give that to them.
Yeah, I got to give it to them.
But you're still the person.
I'm still the
person. So how do you separate that, where you're like, I know I can't forgive, but I accept your forgiveness. Here, you can have that. Are you saying, here, you can have the Father's forgiveness through me, but you'll never have mine? Are you saying
No. They have... The only way that they get my forgiveness is because I receive it from the Father. And it's like it's infiltrated. It's like a conduit unto them. So I receive it, and I become one. So I'll tell you, I become one with the forgiveness that I received from the Father to give to the people.
So how does that look moving forward with that relationship? Or, because here's what I do believe: sometimes people will misappropriate. Or they'll cut off something too soon that wasn't supposed to be where they were putting their expectations.
Yeah.
So, but that's kind of getting to another subject.
Yeah.
But I was just saying that level of how does that look for you? Because now you know you forgive, you're one, and you're moving that forward. How do you do that with that relationship?
Yeah. Okay. So, like, for me, that's such a great question. Like, some relationships are changed forever because of what was done. Do you agree?
Yes.
Yeah. So it just depends on what's done. Now, I can forgive you and it would change the trajectory of our relationship. I can still be in your presence, but it would definitely change the trajectory of the relationship. Now, here's the thing. When it's husband and wife.
Okay. Oh, God.
What's this husband and wife? Like...
So here we go.
Yeah, because that's much deeper.
Yeah.
Because if you're a friend and you do something that hurt me, and it changed the trajectory of our relationship, I can manage that differently. But when I am married,
I really feel like it depends on the level of, you know.
What depends?
Like, how that looks is subject to and relative to how that happened to that person. You know what I'm saying? Like, where they are, what the what the offense was, because that can look like therapy. I'm forgiving you, but you better not be late for therapy.
Yeah.
That's how that process may work for some people.
Yeah.
I forgive you, but you may not ever be able to speak to that person. I need that friendship cut off now. Yeah. That's when you're looking at those forgiveness, have that level of forgiveness comes into where that person who was the offender, there's a certain level of where your pride, if your action has caused something to where you're willing because you know you made the mistake, don't go back and forth about what the requirements are. And at the same time, you have to trust that that is a mature person in God, that they're not just, purposely trying to use you and, demean you.
Okay, so this is deep. Yeah. Because you can forgive. Yeah. So you can forgive. But also there may be changes that have to be made with that forgiveness. Like, I forgive, I'm gonna forgive you because that's what I have to do in order to be forgiven from the Father. Right. But also with that forgiveness, that means like sometimes there's some things that got to change. I mean, but it doesn't, even if that person don't change, it doesn't mean that I have the right. I love when you do that. So it doesn't mean that I have the right to go back and pick up the issue again. But so what happens when, let's say a wife, me, I decide to forgive you, but then there's no change in your behavior or in the spouse's behavior. How do you manage that?
That's tough, man.
Man, do I keep making myself available to a person who is repeatedly offending, I'll say me, by certain actions or something like that? Ooh. Like what do you
like? When is enough to a certain degree, right?
Right. So I'll tell you. Like, can you forgive in a marriage and have boundaries?
Yes.
These are good questions.
I believe so. Because here's the thing. The reason I feel like that's possible is because forgiveness, right, is a heart posture. Like, I'm not going to look at this person that way. But the process of trust, that has to be rebuilt.
It does.
And the only I feel like if someone here it is, you don't know what level. That's why I said a person should seek, help or whatever, because you don't know what level that last infraction may have taken that person to. That may have been your very last time, but that may have been their last moment where they couldn't take it. So if they've now recommitted, how much, can you really put a time frame on someone's healing process if you love them? If this is your real?
Absolutely not. Coach JD, I also feel like marriage does not give a person a right to constantly abuse that person's forgiveness.
That is so true, because they love God.
Yeah, because you know that that I am going. Yeah. That don't give you, sometimes, people feel like because you're married, or I know this person is not going anywhere, they do this repeatedly. Like, marriage is not a right to constantly put the person that you say that you love through so much anguish, and then you expect them to still be in the same role. That is so hard, you guys.
That's wild.
I don't know if I'm talking in my flesh or whatever. I'm just having a conversation, because it's real. If you're doing something that constantly offends me, and you know that what you're doing, there's so many things I can name as an example, but I won't. And then you expect me to still be in that same role as a loving wife, cooking, cleaning, doing all. I guess that's the part of being godly. I don't know. Maybe I ain't godly enough. I don't know. I must need Jesus.
Here's one thing. I feel
it's hard.
I feel like it's a level of what is the reason I feel like God respects marriage so much is because it's the highest form of like sacrificial living you could have.
Man, and he
was a sacrificial lamb.
Yeah,
like that's why I feel like he respects and he really loves marriages so much, is because there's no greater sacrifice you will ever have than like really sacrificing like your life. I feel like when it comes to a godly marriage and spouse, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I just feel like this: when you become one with a person, and you know that person is offended by your behavior or whatever it is, your love for yourself, because you're one, should put that person under constant anguish or distress.
Facts. I feel like that's just a constant level of just disregard that is
disregard for the marriage, and sometimes like third party help is definitely it's going to be pivotal. We never brought our counselors on the couch with us. We got to get them on the couch with us because they give like the best advice.
They were a guiding star in a lot of things when we first decided to jump off the deep end in faith and marry each other after 2 months. What 2 grown adults do that? Apparently quite a few.
Well, that's true.
At the same time, it's a process.
Yeah, it's a working process, because I know a lot of times like people see that we got married after 2 months. Like, it's so crazy. I just had a conversation with my sister. She even was saying, my sister said I must have cheated on my ex with you. She was like, it doesn't make any sense. But so think about being married for getting married less than 2 months, becoming one. That's a whole adjustment, because we're still learning. Still adjustment. So early marriage doesn't mean that you avoid processes. You still got to go through the process. You just go through the process much quicker. Right. And wait a minute, and sometime immaturely. Immaturely. Would I suggest that anybody get married less than 2 months? Absolutely not. That would not be my wisdom, even after us being married. Like, you're gonna have to
do you even like yourself?
Like, you're gonna have to know it's God. Like,
why would you do that?
Because it takes a lot of work. I know a lot of times people see us like this or whatever, but that's only because of the working that we do behind the scenes with the Father.
Fasting, prayer.
Yeah. But it's pretty deep though when you start thinking about forgiveness. And forgiveness definitely is just not it's not an easy choice. Because what I realized like through life is that forgiveness is not an emotion. It's definitely a choice. It is a choice. And as you're with the person that you love, you're also realizing that love moves from emotions to a choice as well. Like, I choose to give you love. I choose to love you. Like, everything pretty much moves to a choice.
The only thing God gave us literally that made us different was like our will.
Our will. That's
will, which is ultimately what? A choice. Your will, broken down in layman's terms, is your ability to stick to what you feel like, what you said you're going to do. My will says this. It's like the power behind the choice.
Yeah, my will honor my covenant. My will to forgive. Like, my will, you have to go deep in God.
You can't do it in your own will.
Which is
why he said, in your weakness, my strength is made perfect. Mm-hmm. Which why he said, he'll give you peace that surpasses, because there has to be a level of supernatural understanding, a place that you escape to be able to hand out, joy, love, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. These fruits of what? The Spirit that are birthed from a place where forgiveness is easy, because I literally chasten my flesh to a point to where I never hold myself above being a sacrificial lamb. Okay, Lord. You know what? That's cool. Yeah. I forgive you. Yeah. Because I have to keep me pure, because I'm answering something higher.
Man, you have to have much work. Yeah, you have to have a higher level of accountability. And for us, our accountability is God, and that's what made forgiveness easier is when you know that you're accountable to God, and you know that not forgiving someone is displeasing to the Father. I remember when we did this study before, when we found out that unforgiveness is not even a word. That the devil will have you to hold on to unforgiveness when it is not a word.
That's crazy.
If you were to type unforgiveness on your phone right now, you'll see autocorrect come up. You'll see red lines. If you look it up in the dictionary, you cannot find unforgiveness at all, because it's not a word. It doesn't exist in the English dictionary.
Right.
But it's something that the enemy uses to cause separation in relationships, in marriages, prematurely.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That revelation is so good.
It's so
crazy.
it's so powerful.
It's not even a word.
It's not even a word.
So
but
the enemy will have you hold on to something that's not even real.
Real.
To cause it to bring it to fruition what? Steal your vision, kill your faith, and destroy your life.
Yeah.
All in real time, because he's making you hold on to something that is not even definable by a dictionary.
Yeah.
Which is unforgiveness. So what that means is that we have to constantly be in that level. Like I said, that's why I think that God truly gives you a spouse, and when you really understand what love is, it's always what more like the ultimate. For God so loved the world. I know it's basic, John 3:16, but for God so loved that he gave.
That he
You
gave.
can just stop right there.
Yeah. So forgiveness.
For God so loved that he gave. End discussion.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Your definition of love is not his.
Yeah.
Which means that's why you feel like that, because that is your will at work. But he said, if my people call by my name, humble themselves, seek my face, and come to me. If my people call by my name will humble themselves, pray, seek my face, and turn from the wicked ways, then I heal from heaven, forgive sin, and heal their land. When God brings healing, it's a level of where now everything that he's restoring is because we sought him in that level of it has to be about him. It can't be about me. And that's so crazy to live here.
Forgiveness.
On this earth and carry that mentality.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, what?
It's not about us. It's about the Father. Real. So here's what I do know. Practical living is that when you have been the offender, you have to help with the healing process as well.
Thanks.
Sometimes people, they want to say, will you forgive me? And then not realize that the person, especially in a marriage, not realizing that the person that you offended, they forgive you, but the healing part of that forgiveness may not be as quick. And that person may need assistance in the healing process. And so a lot of times I feel like when the person that asks for forgiveness or the one who did the offending was so irritable is that people have less tolerance for the ones that they hurt.
That's true.
Like if you've been the offender, it's unfair to have less tolerance for the person as they go through the healing process. Now, on the flip side of that is that the person who's receiving the forgiveness, they have to make sure that they are not manipulating the situation,
which they definitely can.
Yes, because they have been hurt.
Right, and that's why I feel like that's where sometimes people end up overstaying or doing more, because that person in itself. Here's the one thing. God will always put something in us that will ultimately have to draw back to him for a source of strength. Like even if forgiving that person, you're still not going to be whole until you 100% depend on that relationship and foundation, communing with God, that relationship with God, where it becomes a relationship that you have wholeness because you're seeking who he calls you to be. That's number one. So if a person doesn't come from that perspective, they'll constantly have that person trying to do this for them or hold them in that guilt mindset, because they're like, well, I have to help and I have to do this. At some point, you're going to have to understand that people have to move forward. And one person isn't going to be the reason why a lot of times in your life things happen and people want to put everything they're going through and then they'll bleed on their spouse.
Yeah.
They'll bleed on the person they love in relationship, and it's hard for them to forgive because you're this. When it was a accumulation of decisions that led there, and now this person just happened to be there when you had your aha moment.
Yeah, and that's so crazy.
That's not fair.
Just recently, I was talking to someone, and I said, well, I said, I'm not sure if I can trust you because of this, and this. And the person said, well, you can live in the past all if you want to. I'm like, well, I'm not living in the past. It's just a matter that these are the facts because you haven't shown me anything differently. So if you have hurt someone and I know that you're ready to move on, but all they have right now is the facts of what you have done in the past, you're going to have to show them something differently in order for them not to be able to revert back to the prior behavior. Yeah, which is the facts. This will always be the facts until you show them something differently.
Which literally takes TIME.
And change behavior.
There's nothing you can do. It's time and change behavior. And guess what? During that time, that person probably is going to be irritable. They're probably not going to take your word for it. They're probably going to believe that you got some ulterior motive going on.
Yes.
They're probably going to believe that everything you're saying is because, and they probably going to revert back to the situation why y'all there in the first place. If you really are looking to move forward in it, like you have to understand your pride goes under the table. And the only way to do that without flipping out and spazzing out is to run towards what I say, the pain. Like let that pain push you to prayer. Let that pain push you to going deeper in your word. Let that pain push you to really looking at yourself and say, man, oh wretched man that I am. Or wretched woman that I am. Lord, deliver me. Whatever the case may be. So because of that, here's the thing. There's a love that no matter who is rejecting you, I'm feeling this with somebody. There is a love that no matter who is rejecting you due to your bad decision, if you're the offender or you've been offended, there's a love of a God that loves you so much that when you press into his presence, he will comfort you in a way that no one on this earth can give you. You can leave with such an assurance that you are loved and you are appreciated in spite of what you've done. How do I know that? Take it from someone who was literally at the bottom. I'm telling you this because the beautiful thing about it is the love of God is the only power that he said above all these, the greatest gift that he's given us is love. People can prophesy, they can talk, they can do this, they can do that. They're talented, they're this, they're beautiful. The greatest gift I left on this earth is love. And look at what it does. He says, and then when it unifies you into one person, that right there, and the two become one. Now you have a power between you and another person that can become such a force that no matter what you guys do is going to have to bring the fruit of positivity, and it's going to bring the fruit of whatever it is that you're working on, if you can use on one accord, or if you can get on one accord. Because if the enemy wants to kill our children, he wants to destroy jobs, he wants to destroy futures, he wants to destroy legacies. All he has to do is find a way to get in between a relationship. And he can find a way to get between a relationship. Why? Because the children are coming from broken homes. Like they're going off at work because they're not receiving what? At home. So the enemy can get in your home. Listen to me. This is for somebody. I'm telling you, if the enemy can get in your home, if you can allow these small quarrels to become monuments of nothingness, that now you can't even move. Why? Because you created these big things. The enemy now has an idea. Now he has a way to get into your children. He has a way to get into your mind. He has a way to come and attack your wife mentally, your spouse mentally. He has a way to now come after what? Everything else, if he can get in between the level of relationship when it comes to love. And if there's one thing you could take from this live, understand this. For God so loved the world that he gave, right? If you're having a problem with forgiving your relationship, then what is it is it all about you? Have you become to a point to where it's always about you? And that's the true meaning of love. Like if we're going to look at it from a biblical perspective.
Yeah. And I just believe like no matter what you have done, once you receive forgiveness from the Father, you'll be able to stand in front of anybody.
It's an opinion.
And you'll be able to share, you'll be able to talk about what you have done with freedom and not feel condemned. I believe that in the Bible say for all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. So in other words, that we've all have done something that we need other people to forgive us for.
Right, true.
And so since we've all fallen short of the glory of God, that means that it should make it easier for us to forgive people because we've once been the offender. That's what I want people to remember, that it becomes easier to forgive people who have hurt you when you realize that you have been the offender.
Somewhere down the line.
Somewhere in your life.
I've been this way 10 years. It was 11 years ago.
Well, remember back then.
Right.
But they saying over here.
So, pray this has been a blessing to you guys tonight.
Yes, we pray that it has been a blessing on tonight. So we didn't want to be before you guys long. We have had a busy day. Thank you guys so much for your comments. Hello, Luke. Hey, Catherine. Hello, Cheyenne. God bless you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We look forward to seeing everyone at PropheticCon for to all of our mentees with Push Nation. God bless you guys over here on Instagram. We love you guys. Thank you so much for sharing this out. And until we meet again, we'll meet you guys again. This has been a blessing. I won't be so upset with hubby for leaving the toilet up.
Yeah, man, give him a break. He didn't mean it. Give
him a grace. That's so good.
Y'all have a good evening.
Y'all have a good night. God bless.